All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chai Hack Night number 409. It's kind of crazy. I didn't actually realize how big that number was now. Tonight, we're so excited to be hosting Amy Campanelli, Cook County Public Defender. But first, we'll go through some announcements and, of course, names. I'm Katie, and I'll be one of your co-hosts tonight. And I'll send it over to my other co-host, Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm hosting with Katie. Nice to virtually see y'all.
Awesome. Cool. Well, main thing to know is that we are always abiding by our code of conduct. You can check it out on our website. Yeah, so that applies to questions that you ask in the chat or, later in our post-presentation Zoom call, which we'll talk a little bit more about after this. But basically, run of show will be, we will go through the rest of our announcements, and then we'll hear from Amy, and then we'll do Q&A, and then we'll get on to our post-presentation Zoom call to just do intros, hear about the breakout groups that are coming tonight, and go from there before we, as we always say, go forth and hack. All right. Eric, you want to talk about how they can get connected?
Sure, yeah. First of all, someone in the live chat is saying, if you're talking to us, we can't hear you. Steve Adiger, is that true? Can you hear me? Audio is working for Joel.
Cool.
Okay, well, apologies. There may be some technical issues. We'll continue to get those sorted out. But another way of communicating that doesn't involve streaming live audio and video over the internet and is therefore slightly more reliable is our Slack channel. So that's a place that people are around, not just on Tuesday nights, but throughout the week. You can see the link here to join Slack. Slack is a very handy sort of chat room style app. It's pretty used pretty commonly these days. So you can sign up by just clicking that link, and you'll see here there's some example channels that we recommend you joining to continue the conversation. And the audio is working now, so we have stalled successfully. All right, great. So yeah, now we just got a couple other announcements to go through. I know we're a little bit behind schedule. Apologize for the technical problems, so we'll kind of breeze through these. But we do have some upcoming presentations. Very exciting. Of course, every week is very exciting. But August 18th, we've got Maria Hayden from the 49th Ward coming and giving a presentation. On September 1st, we've got Maya Shenwar and Victoria Law. So those are some upcoming presentations, and we'll hope to see you there as well.
Should be exciting. Also exciting is if you or someone you know is looking for tech or data help, especially in these times where we know a lot of organizations may be struggling to manage those things, we have the Tech and Data Help Desk. So if you're an organization that might need that kind of help, there's a group of us who are offering pro bono technology and data assistance. So you can read the blog post about it on our website, or you can request help at the link that's seen in this slide, or you can sign up to volunteer to offer that kind of help.
Some of you may be aware that we have an impending election in November, a pretty important one, if I do say so myself. And during these times, voting, just like everything else, is going to look a little bit different than how you might be used to. Luckily, here in Illinois, there's lots of ways to be prepared to vote. We're going to be able to vote by mail relatively easily. You need to register to vote by mail. And that deadline is October 29th. So just a handy PSA. If you are in Chicago or in Cook County, you've got two different links there. Just as a heads up, if you're not aware, Chicago conducts elections kind of its own way. Parts of suburban Cook County are handled by the Cook County clerk. The rest of Illinois, you can follow that handy website. Of course, I can't tell you who to vote for, but I can strongly tell you that you should vote. Register. Next slide, please.
Cool. So once you're done figuring out how you're going to be a voter this year, figure out how you're going to get counted this year. So important. So those are some of the numbers as of 8/4 in terms of the response rates on the census. It is so, so important that we all be counted. And yeah, it's super, super easy. I was shocked by how easy it was. Do it today.
I also learned some new facts about my housemates while I fill out that census, such as their age. And
the more you know.
Okay, and after the presentation, we are going to have a Zoom call. So if this interaction isn't feeling social enough for you, we got something planned. It's going to be great, Brady Bunch style, intros, round robin, breakout groups. Hope to see you there. You can see the link here, or if you join our Slack channel, we've also posted the link to the post-presentation Zoom call there.
Mm-hmm. And we'll remind you at the end too, so don't worry about that. All right, I think with that, we finished up our announcements, which I think means that we are ready to hear from Amy Campanelli, Cook County Public Defender. Woohoo!
So hi Katie, Eric, and Josh. Thank you for having me on Shy Hack Night. It's very exciting. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about public defenders, my office, what we do, and kind of hopefully at the end you will feel like I do, and that we are important and very important piece of the court system, and that we're pushing reform, and hopefully reform is coming. So I've got a couple slides here I want to start with people. So this is just a beginning slide. I am called the Law Office of the Cook County Public Defender. I am the public defender, and I've been the public defender since 2015. So prior public defenders, I'm the 10th public defender. We've had a public defender here in Cook County since 1930, long before the law required public defenders from the United States Supreme Court. So you can see the people who were public defenders before me. We didn't have a picture of Francis McCurry from 1945, but most of the public defenders were men. I am the second woman. I've been an assistant public defender since 1987, so about 32 years a lawyer. Rita Fry was the first public defender in 1992. And then after her was Ed Burnett, and then Judge Cunningham. He was a judge before he was the public defender, and now myself. So since I've been the public defender, you can see our past. I just wanted to show you that way back when in 1930, there were only 6 lawyers in the office. We had 582 clients in that one year. We did 25 trials and we got 12 not guilty. So that's a very good rate of success on trials. And Benjamin Backermack, you'll see, is sitting next to Clarence Darrow. You may know of him. He's one of the greatest lawyers that in Cook County in Chicago. And Benjamin Backrack was the co-counsel on a very famous case called The People of the State of Illinois versus Leopold and Loeb. So this is just what we believe in as public defenders. I'm the guardian of the presumption of innocence, due process, and a fair trial for all. My clients are indigent. That means they are poor. They cannot afford to hire private counsel, and then they are appointed a public defender. Our mission is to protect the fundamental rights, liberties, and dignity of each person whose case has been entrusted to our care. And when I came into office, I wanted some core values to go along with our mission. So I worked with my deputies and my manager staff, and we came up with these core values. And the first core value, which I feel is the most important, is to be client-centered in our representation. And for me, that means to be always holistic in our defense. And I'll talk about that a little later. So we have several divisions. You don't need to look at all of this, but we represent everybody who's charged in Cook County with a crime, whether it's a misdemeanor crime or a felony crime. And we also represent children in juvenile court and parents who may be at risk of losing their kids to the system because of allegations of abuse or neglect. And these are just some of our divisions in the office. And you can see we have a trial technology division. So I have some numbers, some statistics that you may be interested in. I don't have the most current, but in 2018, we had about 107,000 cases we were appointed to, about 20,000 felonies, which includes over 200 homicides in that year, you know, about 84,000 misdemeanors. So you can see we mostly represent misdemeanor clients. We get a lot of misdemeanors every year. Again, 2,500 juvenile cases, and we represented about 1,250 parents who were at risk of losing their kids to the state. So what is the foundation for a public defender office? And of course, there's public defender offices all across the country in the United States. Some are state public defender offices. I'm a county public defender office in Illinois. We have other public defender offices in different counties, but there are state-run public defender offices too. So basically, the rights that we try to protect because the government is trying to take people's liberty is the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury, the right to confront the witnesses, the right to compulsory process for obtaining witnesses. That means subpoenaing witnesses and making them come to court and testifying. And most importantly, the right to have the assistance of counsel for your defense when the government is trying to take your liberty from you. And this is the case, Gideon versus Wainwright, which came down in 1963, which basically says, Justice Hugo Black on the United States Supreme Court said the right of one charged with a crime to counsel may not be deemed fundamental and essential to fair trials in some countries, but it is in ours. And every defendant stands equal before the law. So very important words, and it's very important for our system of justice here in the United States. Again, we have several courthouses, as many of you know. They're spread all over the county. These are our courthouses in Chicago. And then we also represent clients in our suburbs, which are Skokie, Rolling Meadows, Maywood, Bridgeview, and Markham, and of course, Chicago. So my office has many different offices around the county where we represent clients who are charged with, like I said, misdemeanors, felonies, traffic cases where they're looking at, you know, possibly going to jail, and of course, parents who are at risk of losing their kids again, and juvenile offenders. This is our criminal courthouse. If you've never been here, you might be called for jury duty someday. A lot of people are called for jury duty in the criminal courthouse. This is the big felony courthouse over at 26 in California in Chicago. We represent about 90% of people who are charged with crimes in Cook County. The rest, the other 10% are represented by private attorneys. But as you can see from those numbers, many people who are charged with crimes are those who are well under the federal poverty level. So they qualify to have an assistant public defender be their lawyer in their case. And you can see in 2017, the other numbers. So this is my staff. I have a staff of about 687 folks, which is made up of lawyers, investigators, support staff, managers. I have a mental health unit and mitigators and other paralegals and things like that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. These are just a couple pictures. Just wanted to start out here. That's Tony Preckwinkle in the middle of that picture from the Bud Billiken parade, and the other picture is a picture where we walked in the Gay Pride parade. So let me talk about police. So what do public defenders do? So I've been a public defender now for 32 years. And as you can imagine, every case that comes into the system, the police are involved, law enforcement, except for perhaps the cases involving parents, where the Department of Children and Family Services are the ones who initiate the case and perhaps take a child out of a home. But in general, we're talking about police accountability and police trust. And obviously, you know that in Chicago, there's a big issue with police trust right now, especially with Chicago police, even though there are also about almost 140 different police districts in the suburban area. So what do we do? I am the check and balance on the system, right? I am here, and all my public defenders are here to make sure and keep the police honest, to make sure the prosecutors are honest and fair, and to make sure the judge is fair in court, to make sure the judge follows the rules of evidence, to make sure that our clients are represented effectively. And one of the biggest issues that I saw my entire career was abuse by police, whether it was physical abuse or mental abuse upon arrest. So I went to Chief Judge Evans, myself and many other private counsel, and we talked to him about important reforms, and that the intercept of arrest, when people are getting arrested and their rights are being violated, they should have a lawyer, right? That's the important point. And I can't stress enough how important it is for you to have a lawyer when you're arrested. Anyone who's arrested should have a lawyer upon arrest. I don't care if you're arrested for the most, insignificant thing. If the police are arresting you and they're putting you in custody, you do not need to call your mother. You do not need to call your father. We'll get to that. You do need to eventually, but the first person you should be calling is a lawyer. So I told Judge Evans and spoke about how important it was, and that it would bring trust to the community. If someone was at the police station, making sure the police were not abusing my clients, making sure the police followed the law, that they gave medical attention upon arrest, that they allowed my clients to make phone calls upon arrest, and that is the intercept where we can make a huge difference in bringing reform to the system here in Cook County. Because over the years, I've seen horrible, horrible atrocities to my clients upon arrest, not only physical abuse, but mental abuse, hiding people away for days, not giving them access to phone or food or medical attention, and sometimes not even access to use a bathroom. So we've seen horrific injustice at the point of arrest by police officers. So in about 2000, I believe it was 17, Chief Judge Evans entered an order giving me the right as the public defender and my staff to represent clients at police stations. This is a huge reform. No other public defender office in the country has this right. I'm hoping that it will spread and that other chief judges or other legislators will make laws to give public defenders the right to be appointed at a police station instead of being appointed later in court when the interrogations are done, when the abuses have already happened. Because at that intercept, we can really bring change, like I said, and we can help law enforcement be more trustworthy, quite frankly. We can force the law enforcement to follow the law, and we can bring trust to the whole system. Because as you know, public defenders are part of the system, right? The state's attorney, the public defender, the clerk, the sheriff, we're all in this court system, the judges. And if people don't trust that they aren't going to get a fair shake when they're arrested, guilty or innocent, everybody deserves a fair shake in court. That's what the Constitution says. That's what the law says. It doesn't matter. The prosecutor has the burden of proving you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's our system of justice, and it is the best system in the world. So we got the right to do this work and represent clients at police stations, and I formed a unit. And right now I have about 9 lawyers who work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and are ready to take phone calls from anyone in Cook County. Let me repeat that. Anyone in Cook County who's arrested, rich or poor. You don't have to be, what I was talking about before, indigent to get a public defender at a police station. Once you go to court, then you have to qualify for a public defender. But anyone upon arrest can call that number, 1-844-817-4448 or 844-81-RIGHT. And I'm trying to get out the word to tell people, put this phone number in your cell phone. Put this phone number on your refrigerator. Everyone you know should have this phone number. You just never know when someone you love or yourself or your neighbor or your colleague might get arrested. And they need to call this number because then we can go to the police station and protect their rights. And these are your rights in the police station. And people don't know their rights in a police station. It's not the same as, it's not Miranda at TV that tells you, you have a right to an attorney. One will be appointed for you in court. Anything you say can be used against you, and you have the right to remain silent. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about basic human civil rights that people have when they're arrested. The police must treat you fairly, okay? They must allow you to make phone calls, to call a lawyer within a reasonable time of arrest. They must allow you to call your family. They also must allow you to consult with a lawyer. That's different than just communicating. You also have a right to consult in private with a lawyer. And they have to provide you with food when you're under arrest. They have to provide you with shelter and medical attention if need be. So those are basic rights that the police have to provide you. They cannot hide you away. They cannot hide you incommunicado, but they do that. And we know they do that, and they're doing it every day. So these are what public defenders do. We fight these issues in court when we hear from our clients that they weren't given phone calls. And I don't have to ask for a phone call when I'm arrested. The police have to afford me a phone call. What am I supposed to do? Fight the police to get a phone call? I don't know where the phones are in the police station. I'm in a cell. I'm in a locked room. I don't have any control over anything. And unless you've been arrested, you have no idea what it's like. It is so scary that, you know, and the police have all the control, right? I always say this to people. People say they can talk to the police. They can talk their way out of things, but you can't, and you shouldn't. The lawyer should do the talking for you, because you're no match against those detectives who have 50, 60 years experience amongst them, who are sitting over you, talking to you, trying to get you to talk to them, right? And interrogating you, and you're no match. And I always say, if I was in a police station, and I'm a lawyer, right? And I know what the laws are, but even for me, I think you just don't know until you're in that situation and the police are trying to make you give up your rights or force you to talk to them, and depriving you of basic things and isolating you hour after hour after hour. And that time goes by very slowly, you know? So it's very important to call the lawyer. And the statistics I have from the police station unit is that we have we've made about 2,000 visits to police stations in just the 2 years, not even quite 2 years that we've been doing this. And we've walked out about 18% of the people we've gone to represent uncharged. They have not gone to court because we have been at the police station and represented them. So very important reform that I am very proud of, and hopefully will help spread to other jurisdictions, not only in Illinois, but across the country, so that other people's basic rights are not violated while they are arrested. This is just about the lawsuit. So I've recently had to file a lawsuit against the Chicago Police Department. I'm not going to talk too much about the details of the lawsuit, but many advocates, we saw during the protests and hundreds of people getting arrested in May and June and this weekend. But during the May and June, we saw hundreds of people getting arrested during peaceful protests. And what people were saying, which were things that we already knew, was that they didn't have access to phones. They weren't allowed to see a lawyer, even though they asked for a lawyer. They weren't allowed to use a phone, even though they asked for a phone, even though they're not supposed to have to ask for a phone. The police are supposed to afford you a phone the minute you're arrested. And so it just became highlighted during the protests about these injustices that I have seen for 32 years, and that lawyers in my office have been fighting case by case in court. So what we did is we've sued the Chicago Police Department basically to follow the law. The law has been since 1963 that you have these rights, and we filed a complaint. Myself, I'm a plaintiff. The Let Us Breathe Collective is a plaintiff. Black Lives Matter is a plaintiff. Stop Chicago's a plaintiff. National Lawyers Guild is a plaintiff. UMedics is a plaintiff, and Good Kids Mad City. So we are all plaintiffs in this lawsuit against the city of Chicago and the Chicago Police Department to force the Chicago police to follow the law that has been the law since 1963. I've been collecting data since I've had the police station unit, and I have affidavits from all sorts of people in my office and clients, and how many times people have been offered a phone, if they haven't been offered a phone, when they were offered a phone, whether it was 5 hours after they were arrested, 24 hours, 48 hours, or never. So we've been collecting this data to help us with this lawsuit. And the people of the Schiller Pryor law firm, the MacArthur Justice Center of Northwestern, University of Chicago Law School, Mandel Legal Aid Clinic, the Bloom Legal Clinic at Northwestern, First Defense Legal Aid are all our lawyers, and they're representing us in court. So that is currently going on. And it's been helpful to have the police station unit because we've been able to see and collect data at the point of arrest to prove the facts that we're alleging in this lawsuit, that the police have not been following the law and don't intend to follow the law, quite frankly, anytime soon. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about, I believe, is one of the things we've been doing, and you've probably been reading about, is bail reform. And you heard some very disheartening statements from the mayor and Superintendent Brown, superintendent of Chicago Police, this weekend, pretty much insinuating that people who were doing looting this past weekend should be held in custody without a bond because they were looting. And burglary, stealing things, breaking things is not a violent offense. Certainly hurting someone, shooting someone, robbing someone at force are violent offenses. But property crimes are not a violent offense. And we do not lock people up because the superintendent tells us to, or because the mayor tells us to. We follow the law. And we've been following the law and been doing bail reform here since 2014 or 15. And the Chief Judge Evans, again, the same person who had the courage to see that I needed to be in police stations, has been at the forefront of the bail reform. And he has a website that you can go to and look at these numbers, which pretty much contest everything you read in the Chicago Tribune when they talk about bail reform, everything you hear stated by Superintendent Superintendent Brown and the mayor about that bail reform isn't working, because it is working. And you can see the numbers, and I know that people on this call are sort of tech savvy, so I wanted to put up a couple graphs, but you see that 82% of felony defendants, you know, we don't have the misdemeanor numbers, I didn't put those up, but felony too. So 82% of felony defendants who appear in bond court, who were released for 2 years, from October of 2017 and September of 19, have never committed a new offense. Okay, that's huge, right? That's a huge amount of numbers. And that means that people are going to court, they're released to their homes, they can get back to their jobs, their education, and they can fight their case from the outside and not be pressured while sitting in jail, especially at this time during COVID, to plead guilty just to get out of jail, not be pressured to plead guilty because they're worried about COVID, right? We need to have more people out back in their homes if they are not a danger to society or they're not a flight risk. And when you look at the next number, that less than 1% of clients charged with felonies who appeared in bond court and were released between that same period, those 2 years, less than 1% were charged with committing a new violent offense. So when I give you these numbers, 82%, so that means, you know, 17% or so did commit a new offense. Those are non-violent offenses. Those are like, I committed a drug offense and then I got released on bond and I committed another drug offense. But clients are not getting released in the community and committing violent offenses because bail reform is working, because we are wrapping our arms around these people and giving them the tools to be successful while they're fighting their case. And I can't stress this enough. You've got to think of it as this way. When you are arrested on a crime, you are not guilty of that crime. No matter what you read in the media, no matter how much hype a crime gets, you are not guilty of a crime. You have to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. You are only arrested and charged with a crime. And just because you are charged with even the most heinous crimes, right? We have seen many, many cases in Cook County be reversed. The most horrific crimes and clients have been reversed because they weren't guilty of those crimes. But it's hard to fight the headlines in the newspaper, right? It's hard to fight the charge. Oh my God, you're charged with murder, therefore you must be guilty of murder. No, we win cases every day in our office. We win homicide cases, all sorts of serious cases, right? But the point is, the charge alone should not be the reason that you are held in custody. There are many things to look at, and the law provides for what the judges should consider. And Chief Judge Evans entered an order clarifying this for the judges, and since 2017, and the judges have been finally actually following the law. and not holding people in custody on money bond because they were poor. When they knew they were poor, and they knew even if they set a bond of $2,000 that that person didn't have $200 to post. So they have for decades been holding everyone in custody and only letting the few people released, right? And has that kept us safer? Think about it, folks. We've been holding everybody in custody in the 80s and 90s and 2000s and early 2010 up to 2015. Were we safer then when we had 1,000 homicides a year in the 80s and 90s? When we had crime was up every year? We weren't safer then when we locked everybody up. We're safer now when we're not locking everybody up. And we're only holding people in custody who are a danger or a flight risk. And there's no crystal ball here, right? Nobody can predict human behavior, but we have certain tools we can use to evaluate the individual standing in front of the judge and say, okay, I can release you on your promise to come back to court. That's called individual recognizance, because you do not present a clear and present danger, and you are not a flight risk. And it's been working. So I just wanted to talk about that because it's one of our successes besides my police station unit, keeping people out of the system, getting people released back into their communities so they can still be productive members of the communities while they're fighting their case, innocent until proven guilty. Another thing I wanted to talk about with you was forensic evidence. I know I'm sort of switching topics, but you know, again, science is not always, let's say the methodology of science is not always best practice, right? We've seen forensic science over the years change. Before DNA, right? Before we had DNA, we had many, many clients who were innocently convicted because there was no DNA. And DNA even had its problems in the beginning. So during President Obama's tenure, many, many scientists across the country and the world, quite frankly, put out a report called the Forensic Science in Criminal Courts, ensuring forensic scientific validity of feature comparison methods. And yeah, what this report has helped us do is actually fight not bad science, but bad expert witnesses who hide behind science because they haven't followed the protocols. They haven't done the science correctly. They haven't followed the correct methodology for ballistics testing, which is guns and bullets, fingerprint testing. You know, everybody thought fingerprints was, 100% accurate. Well, it's not. Okay, it's not 100% accurate. And we're fighting those cases in court. There's a new forensic science that maybe you've heard about it that's very interesting called spot shotter, where the Chicago police have decided that they can pinpoint where gunshots have occurred within, like, you know, a few feet, someone's backyard, someone's front yard. Absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. It is inaccurate. It might be within a city block, but that's not in someone's front yard. And you understand that what happens and what we fight against as public defenders is that then if the police go to someone's front yard, right, because they say they have accurate scientific evidence that someone fired a gun in that front yard, but they didn't, but they see someone in that front yard and then they arrest that person unlawfully because the science isn't there. It didn't prove that that person fired a gun, or they chase that person unlawfully, or they go into that person's house unlawfully without a search warrant or an arrest warrant. So we have an amazing forensic science unit that is renowned across the United States. My lawyers go across the United States and teach other public defender offices and other attorneys how to attack the science and the way expert witnesses are testifying about the science that they're using because they're not using the science properly. So very, very important in my office. I think the last couple of things I just wanted to hint on, because I don't have too much time, I think Lester's saying I have to wrap it up. What I'm trying to be is a holistic office. And that's sort of a change in the culture of my office. That's why I told you about my core values. Being client-centered is different than being lawyer-centered. When you're client-centered, you think about the client first. And what would the client expect from their lawyer? What would the client need from their lawyer? And being holistic means we don't just represent the client on their case, because clients come to us with all sorts of issues, right? Whether it's a mental health issue, a substance abuse issue, they've been through trauma, they need to get back into school, they need a job, they need housing. So these are the issues that I'm trying to give the resources to my lawyers to help these clients and their other issues they bring to us. Because we know that once the case is over, whether they're found innocent or guilty, or they get probation, we want them to be successful. And I always say success to me running this office is if I have less clients, if I need less lawyers, because then we're doing our job. We're stopping crime. We're preventing people coming into the system because we're helping them get on the path to be law-abiding, productive citizens, helping them with their issues that brought them into the criminal system. So that, whether it's for our youth who we represent or adults who we represent, it's difficult, but I think that at this time, it's very important to stop the mass incarceration, to stop just locking people up pre-trial, because that's how we've done it for years, and it hasn't kept us safer, and to represent clients holistically and help them get services in the community when they get back home. So we also are trying to start an immigration unit, because we know lawyers are not required for our non-citizens. They don't have a right to have a lawyer. Someday, I hope in 20 years, they will have an automatic right. And maybe the United States Supreme Court will say that someday. And I'm trying to start a trend, along with San Francisco and New York, to start the process of public defenders representing non-citizens in their immigration cases, to get them at their first detention hearing, so that they are not detained and they can go back and live in their homes. Because quite frankly, the majority of non-citizens who are detained are the breadwinners. They're the fathers who are working, and the mothers who are working. And then the kids suffer because the father is detained and then sent back or removed from the country. So we're trying to start an immigration unit. We're going to be, we have a lot of advocates helping us. I'm trying to help clients get their driver's licenses reinstated, because we know that if you don't have a driver's license, it affects a lot of things in your life. People drive cars even if they don't have a license. And that's unfortunate, because they're not near public transportation. They have to go pick up their kids from daycare. They have to go to the grocery store. They have to get to a medical appointment. And if they can't get public transportation, the only other way to do life things is by driving. And sometimes people lose their driver's license. So we're trying to help people get their licenses reinstated. And then they get on the path to being productive citizens, to getting employment, to helping them, quite frankly, take care of themselves, and then they can take care of their families. Very, very important. This is only the second. We started this a year ago. It's the first reinstatement expo in the city of Chicago for all of Cook County. We had our second one in January, and our next one is in September. I believe it's September 11th, whatever that Saturday is, will be our third driver's license expo, and it will be at Malcolm X College again. Lastly, we're trying to do a lot of reforms in this office. I just hired an education attorney to help our youth stay in school, to put pressure on the schools, to hold them accountable, and not just expel and suspend children, right? We need to hold the schools accountable. We need to make sure the schools are complying with the individual education plans, and not just calling the police to arrest our kids, right? But making sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do in the school. So if you have a lawyer represent you at the suspension or expulsion hearing, you have a much better outcome. If you have a lawyer and you're a non-citizen, you have a much better chance of not being detained. If you have a lawyer at a police station, you have a much better chance of understanding the process, feeling like you're getting a fair shake from the beginning, stopping the abuse of police, and quite frankly, walking out of the police station possibly uncharged and not being put into the system. So I hope that I don't know how many people, what age you are listening to this YouTube, or if you're thinking about going to law school or being a public defender or being a lawyer. It is a wonderful, wonderful occupation. You can do a lot of work helping people to stay on the right path when they make mistakes. We have a long way to go, folks. You know that. Our country is very punitive, and it's been punitive a long time. And even after people serve prison sentences or serve probation sentences, We make them wear that scarlet letter forever. When are they finished? I've served my time in prison. Why can't I get a job? Why can't I take care of myself? Why is everything so difficult? Why doesn't society want to help me be productive? I've served my sentence. You know, that's the way we have to think. We have to start being much more rehabilitative and much more restorative in our justice. And we can do that, and we are doing that, but we've got a long way to go. So I'm ready to take questions. I know there was a lot more to talk about. I could talk for hours about what we do in our office, but I think it's already 10 to 8. So if there's any questions in the chat, I know we started a little later. Oh, I do have like a short one minute video. Can I just play that, or is it too late, Katie?
I think it's too late.
Okay, that's fine. We won't show the video.
It's fine. If you want to, I'm sure we could share a link with that in the Slack so people can view the video separately. But we do have a couple questions from the chat and stuff that we definitely want to try to get to.
Okay.
Katie, you want to grab one of these questions first?
Sure. Well, I know you addressed this a bit right at the end, but one of the questions that we got about 5 minutes ago or so was, do you have enough people to do all that you feel needs to be done?
No. No, but you know what, as long as I can continue to grow like I have been, I mean, obviously this year is a big budget year. The county is trying to regain revenue, you know, but I have told the president and the commissioners, the Cook County commissioners are set my budget, and the president, that they cannot take away any of my money. And I'm asking for new positions next year, because we are getting more and more cases. You saw 100 people arrested, right? We had a lot of people in bond court today. So obviously I need the lawyers to do the work. I need the paralegals. I need social workers. I need the mitigation experts. I need the forensic lawyers to make sure that they are attacking the science when it's not properly in the case. We need to hold the prosecutors accountable. So all of that we need help with. We do a really good job, but we could always use more lawyers. Like I said, I'm trying to be more holistic, so more social workers. I have a new mental health unit. So I now have a psychologist who can help me with clients and social workers to tell the story of the client to get better outcomes in the cases.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
Yeah. All right, Eric, you want to do the next one?
Yeah, we had a couple questions that I'm going to consolidate into a single question, which is kind of what can people do that what can we do to help people in the civic tech community, perhaps, or non-lawyers, or perhaps people that are pre-law? Again, those might all be slightly separate populations of people, but are there ways that we can get more involved to help with the work that you guys are doing?
So obviously the police station work, I think, is so important, and people are not educated about calling that phone number. I need help on social media. I don't have a marketing budget to put up billboards and put the phone number on buses and the CTA. But I know a lot of, the majority of the people who are in jail right now are from ages 18 to 34. And if I could capture everybody, if everybody in Cook County knew that phone number, right? 1-844-81-RIGHT or 844-817-4448. If everybody knew that phone number by heart, and they knew that when I got arrested or my neighbor got arrested, and I don't like my neighbor, maybe I called the police on my neighbor, right? Because they're dealing drugs in front of my corner. But the next person I should be calling, I should care that that person who's arrested has a fair shake. And I should be calling my office, oh, so-and-so just got arrested. Can you go to the police station for them? All we need is the name. We just need the name of the person arrested. We need someone to call us to represent them. I can't just go to a police station. I have to get that phone call. So any help to get all people in Cook County to understand that they have a right to a lawyer, and they should never, ever be in custody in any police station without a lawyer, ever. That's the education piece. The community thinks, oh, I don't really need a lawyer, I'm not in trouble. Or, boy, if I get a lawyer, maybe that makes it worse for me. It never makes it worse for you. Okay? Think about all of us who are educated and have been through college and are going on to grad school. You know, it doesn't matter how smart you are, right? So that's the help we need. I need that phone number on social media, on every platform, stated everywhere you go. Tell your people you're having dinner with, people you have lunch with, your colleagues, your neighbors, everybody, that if you know anyone who's arrested, that's the only number they should call. They can have their mother call us. Let's say they're getting arrested and we know that the police aren't giving them the phone calls. That's why I'm suing the Chicago police. So have your mother call me and we'll go to the police station for you.
Mm-hmm.
365 days, 24/7.
Along those lines, I wonder if this is a question you can answer. What do you think it would take to get police departments to work more proactively with your office?
Well, I have spoken to many police chiefs of police, and I've spoken at police events before. I think I have a pretty good relationship with suburban police officers. I think it's just the Chicago Police Department is so entrenched in their ways for so many years, and they've gotten away with not following the law for decades, that they just don't understand that if they would follow the law, people would trust them. And then they could solve more crimes. If they would treat people with respect and dignity, no matter what you're arresting them for. They could be a child pornographer. They could have just shot and killed police officers. They still deserve respect and dignity. Because don't you want that case to process through the court fairly? You want the right people arrested. You want the right people convicted. We have spent $1 billion since 2004 on settlements against Chicago police misconduct and abuse. Do you want me to say that number again? Almost $1 billion since 2004. Almost 700 million to victims of police abuse. This is Chicago police. And the other, 250 million for attorney's fees. One thing I think that the Chicago police, we have the federal consent decree that's happening right now. Some of that we have to make sure that they're abiding by. That's helping. We have to make sure that the mayor is forcing the police to follow the law when she sees bad behavior, right? When she sees that innocent protesters are arrested and they shouldn't have been, and they didn't have access to counsel, even though we were there and they didn't let us in the door, right? It might take the lawsuits. Sometimes it takes lawsuits, but maybe this qualified immunity too. I just don't know. This is a different superintendent. I had regular conversations with Superintendent Johnson, and he was the majority of my time as public defender. I had regular conversations with him because I was rolling out the police station unit, but I have not had any conversations with Superintendent Brown.
Wow.
I don't know if he's amenable to talking to me, or I feel like it's going to take the consent decree. It's going to take lawsuits, more protests to get the Chicago police to do what they're supposed to do.
Maybe that's something else we need a billboard for.
Yeah.
Call me, talk to me.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the more the Chicago police, the more people they hire, the better training they get, the new police officers, the more we hold police officers who aren't following the law accountable, right? Then your colleague should be saying, oh, well, I'm going to follow the law. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to get suspended. But we haven't done that all these years. We've allowed police to just walk freely and commit violations of rules, procedures, laws, and not get into any trouble. And then they don't even have to pay if they get sued, right? The city pays in the tune of $250 million. We give them lawyers. Maybe if they had to reach into their pocket a little bit and pay their own for their own mistakes, that might help. That might stop bad behavior. You know, for willful and wanton misconduct by police, right? Maybe not negligence or things, but willful and wanton misconduct, they should have to pay for their own lawyers and pay their own settlements. That would change behavior quickly.
Okay, I think we have time for one or two more. Let's see. How has your office been impacted by recent protests? And have you seen call volumes increase?
Yes, we have seen call volumes increase in May and June. We actually reached out to other organizations to help us represent folks who were arrested, the National Lawyers Guild, other private lawyers who pro bono, which means for free, just helped us go to police stations and take calls from family members and field all those phone calls. So obviously, if 100 people are arrested in one night and I have 9 lawyers, I also have managers on staff to help out and other people step up. We don't have the capacity. You know, we try to make phone calls. We try to talk to police on the phone. We go to the police station. But if we have these mass arrests, we need help. And we did get a lot of help, like I said, from other lawyers and other people who definitely want to step in and help. There's, you know, the National Lawyers Guild represents protesters. That's like their niche, you know, into the system. They represented protesters at all the other events in the city over the decades. So, but right now we're not getting enough. Right now, people don't know to call us. I wish I had a capacity problem. We did on those protests, but then if I have a capacity problem, I'll put more lawyers in the unit, right? I'll be able to field more calls. I'll be able to save more clients from going into the system. Or maybe I can stop them from being overcharged, right? So that they're lawfully charged with the right offense. And we can tell the other side of the story. We don't talk about cases when they're arrested, right? It doesn't do us any good to tell the other side of the story to the media, right? That's why you usually only hear one side when someone's arrested, but we tell the story in court when it matters. And we win the case in front of the jury or the judge or on a pretrial motion because the police didn't have an arrest or search warrant and they unlawfully went into someone's house or unlawfully arrested someone on the street, you know, or lied, quite frankly, in the police reports, right? I mean, I can't not tell you how many thousands of police reports that I proved were untrue. And I'm not exaggerating, thousands in my career, because they've never been held accountable. Because when they get on a witness stand and swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, the judge believes them. The prosecutor believes them. The juries believe them, right? So we as defense attorneys, that's what we fight. We have to make sure that the evidence is there. We interview the witnesses. We go out on the scene of the crimes. We prove that the scientific evidence is faulty. We prove that the police officers lied in their police reports. And, you know, why they do that is, you know, just because they can and they've gotten away with it. And it doesn't serve any purpose, especially when the wrong person is convicted. The person who committed the crime is still out there.
Well, thank you so much. During your presentation, we put out a tweet talking about the phone number and saying that anyone can call it, but we can continue to boost it.
That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been a great presentation. So
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think we're ready to head on over to the next part of our evening, our post-presentation Zoom call.
Okay, do we get up and walk over to the other room?
A long commute to the other Zoom call. Yeah. All right, so you can join us at the URL that you see on your screen here, bit.ly/chn-remote-zoom. That's where you'll find us. Get your 3-word intros ready.
All right, see you there.
All right. Let's go forth and
And hack.